Let's talk about it.
And there we are.
Okay.
How goes it?
How are you? How goes it,
I'm
buddy?
good. How are you?
Goes.
It's going.
I'm
The life
good.
and
I'm good.
living life in the mountains.
Yeehaw. So this week was our children's March break. So there was no school this week. Children were home. I decided to travel. I visited my family and then had some family come and visit me. So it was a pretty good week. Now they've changed some of the rules in Ontario. There's no longer mask mandates for certain things. So the children don't have to wear masks going back to school and so on. So we'll see how that plays out. See what happens.
All right. Well, we got a lot of folks coming in. Jen, want to say hi. Stephanie,
Wow.
want to say hi back. Tara, we want to say hi back. Patricia, good to see you. Francine, good to see you. Brent, good to see you. Chris, good to see you. Nadine, good to see you. Thank you for the promotion, Nadine, for our show. We really appreciate it very, very much. It means a lot when people do that for us, so thank you. Hope everyone's doing well in the crazy. Hey, Brenda. Hope everyone's doing well in a crazy weather if you're in the U.S. South. It has always been a joke about the weather in the South of the U.S. If you want to see the weather change, wait a minute. That's kind of been the way that the weather has gone here lately. So I think we're actually heading into spring, since today is actually the first day of spring here. We actually think I've headed into spring, which is kind of interesting.
Right? How nice is that? Well, today I went to the horse today, and he's shedding, which means he's shedding his winter coat. He's getting his spring coat, and always spring is here when that happens. So I was pretty excited. As much as it sucks to have to clean up all his hair, it's pretty cool to know that spring's finally here.
Hey, Angel.
Let me tell you.
Don, thank you very much for coming out. Yeah, it's been weird. I think we're going to be in like the low 50s to 70 plus during the day, so it's not bad. It's not bad. It's heading to a southern spring, so that's not a bad thing to do. Thank you, Nadia. We appreciate it very much. We do miss when we are gone. We do miss you guys terribly, but life interrupts, unfortunately, and we have to take a respite ourselves once in a while and handle some things. And we like coming back and hearing from you guys, and it's great to have the support that we have from you guys. We really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Glad to know we were missed. Now tonight's subject.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go. What you got?
I was just going to say, everybody, I feel like I'm a little bit pixelated, and I apologize if I'm not coming through clearly. It's no fault of my own. I don't know what's happening with the internet signal, but if I lose you guys, I won't leave you. I'll be back. And as always, I mentioned at the beginning of every episode, we simulcast, which means that we are on multiple networks. If I don't pick up one of your questions, please don't be offended. Richard will try and pick up the question for you. He has the master, so he's able to see everything, but sometimes I miss some things. So I know people have been disappointed when I haven't been able to address certain things. I apologize. You'll see me looking down. I have multiple screens. I'm trying to pick up on every question, so please be patient with me.
Yeah, and guys, too, just so you know, as it tends to happen with our show quite often, and we love the interaction. Trust me, it's something that we would not want to do without. But what we do have to do is try to keep the questions that we bring on board something that has to do with relevance. Okay, Absolutely. So if it's a relevant question to a subject topic or a subject matter, we have a tendency to bring them in and talk about them. I mean, that is the name of the show, after all. But it's one of those kind of things that we'll bring them up to talk about them as long as they're relevant. And we do get a lot. Hey, Adam, how's it going? And we do get a lot of commentary and questions, comments in this section in this chat room. But we do try to get to everyone. So please be patient with us too. We get anywhere from 300 to 400 comments on our show every week. And it's hard to get everybody up there. But we appreciate you all very much for that. Jason, how's it going, man? Sydney, Australia. Enjoy that. That sounds good. I always wanted to go.
How amazing.
Always wanted to go. Hey,
How
Judy,
amazing.
how's it going? Stephanie, good to see you out here, huh? Appreciate it. Tonight's show, Katie and I talked about at length, actually, a couple of times, because we deal with it in our day to day. And, we hear from a lot of people. And I didn't mean to be sarcastic at all about the titling of the show. Say, oh, you think you're a medium. Okay. There are a lot of folks out there that haven't learned their skill yet. There are a lot of folks. Hey, Amber, how's it going? Where is Nikki Val? Tamara, good to see you. There are a lot of folks that haven't quite come to where they need to be yet in their abilities to be able to even discern the categorization of their abilities. So we've gone through and we've talked to people. I know personally, I have talked to a lot of people, about what we do, what a psychic medium is, what a clairaudient is, it's just a matter, guys, of trying to drill down each and every ability. Now, we're not saying anybody couldn't be a medium. There's 68% of most of the people in the world that have abilities and don't even know what they've got. And, I always try to help people drill down to what they possibly are working with, because that gives you an opportunity to be able to hone your skills and to be able to work with someone that can help you bolster and enhance your ability. But you have to kind of realize where you're at with it. And that's kind of what this whole show wants to be about tonight. We want to talk about, what I go through, what Katie goes through, having this, the abilities that we have. Although, as what's unfortunate for some people is they don't realize it's not just being a psychic or a medium or being a psychic medium. It's psychic medium, clairaudient, clairvoyant. There's just a multitude of different ability fractionates that fractions off of those titles. And it takes a while. It took me a long time personally to be able to sit down with what I had to deal with and kind of get it drilled down. Then I personally had a near-death experience 5 years ago. And that bolstered my ability and skills through the roof with certain things. And, it's just a matter of managing what you also have too, not learning what you got, but once you learn what you're working with, learning how to manage it, learning how to protect yourself. So we want to open it up tonight, and kind of put a, hey, Susie, we wanted to put it out tonight a little bit too, to have you guys kind of an open forum, open discussion a little bit about, what you have questions on regarding what you believe your abilities are. Hey, Michelle, good to see you. And then, just try to get an idea if we can answer questions for you. It's really, if you're going into this and you're rather new in your own abilities, you should have a million questions. That's the reality of it. You should have a million questions about what's going on with you, what the possibilities are. And if we can help you drill those down tonight, we would love to. So I want to turn it over a little bit. My experience as a psychic medium started a long time ago. Going back decades to when I was a child. And hey, how's it going, Amanda? Back in decades when I was a child, I ignored a lot of it because I was raised in a household where, if you were a psychic medium, you get tied to a stake and burned. I grew up in that religion. So, a lot of times it was boo-hooed or, just kind of blown off because, oh, it's just a kid's wild imagination and all that other kind of stuff. And they come to find out, ironically, hey, Melissa, come to find out, ironically, when my mom was in the last stages of her life, she finally opened up to the fact that she was also a medium. And, it's because it is genetic, it does follow the line of genetics. And, it is just kind of one of those things where somebody in your family, if you have abilities to add abilities, just a lot of the time they didn't want to talk about it. But again, dealing with what people are going through, a lot of people also don't know what they've got going on with them. I know, like I said, it took me years to find out what every one of my abilities were, and I still don't know everything, and I probably never will. But for me, it did start off years and years ago, and then wanting to find more answers about it. What about for you, Katie? Talk a little bit about your experience and your background in psychic medium work.
So I started, even before I can recollect, my parents were telling me stories of instances that I had. I honestly don't remember life not being psychic. I thought it was a normal part of life. And to learn that other people don't experience what I experience is kind of unsettling, to be quite honest, because, I would feel void. I would honestly feel void with it. It really started at a young age where I would have premonitions. I would tell my parents predictions or certain things that would occur, and they would validate it for me. I started seeing, not only on a psychic basis, but on a mediumship level, seeing dead loved ones coming through, or people of the past, tapping into timelines and seeing moments of history, play out in a residual sense when I was really young. I remember, one of my first school memories was my mother getting a phone call home and asking why, I was having a little bit of trouble. And it turns out that when she asked me about it, I had talked about seeing the colors around the teacher at the blackboard, and it turned out to be auras. And so I was so intrigued with these things at 6 and 7 years old that it just never went away. Now, I'm very fortunate because I grew up in a family that's very open and spiritual, and they were open to talking about these scenarios and talking about these instances. And so it never shut off for me. I was able to kind of embrace it and continue it and make it bloom. Not everybody, unfortunately, has those abilities, but it wasn't until, I started paranormal investigating that I really allowed myself to use these abilities of mine. I always used my gut feeling. I always kind of stuck with what my gut, and if it told me not to do something, I went with it. But it wasn't until I picked up some paranormal equipment and started very amateurly, nonetheless, investigating, that these abilities kind of came in and everything calibrated, and I was able to kind of tap into what I needed to do. So it was, paranormal investigating first and reading second for the longest time.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, and those are great experiences too. Your history of, I call it progressive knowledge. You're constantly learning, but you're learning at an enhanced level at a certain point. Now, Amber came up with one of the first questions, which I really like. How do I know I'm actually feeling a presence rather than my mind wanting that? Let me tell you some of the better ways to do it. And then I'd love to turn it over to Katie. There's some of the better ways to kind of filter that is, don't listen to anybody tell you anything that's going on in any particular room or house or building. Go in on your own, okay? Your body is the best paranormal detection device you're ever going to have. Your abilities will also come in for you. Okay, so if you don't know anything that's going on in a particular room or a particular house or a particular hallway or whatever, okay, it's a lot easier to discern if you stop or you feel like you have to stop and go, whoa. Okay, you're going to have body reactions. You're going to have your hair will raise. You'll feel almost like a vibration or a tingling. People are different about how they register paranormal activity. But it's those kind of things that'll help you through it. If your mind is this, I believe that if your mind is just putting it in your head that, oh, you're feeling something, your body's not going to be reacting. Your body reacts because something is there. Your body reacts because you're picking up on something. That's legit. You can't force that. Okay, so that's where your differentiator is going to be. Don't listen to anybody tell you about experiences in the building. Walk in blind. Mm-hmm. And when you walk in blind, let your body register what you're feeling, because it absolutely will. And it'll do it in different ways than just going, hey, by the way, there's a spirit in that part of the building. Hey, let your body tell you everything. But try not to get information. That really helps a lot. Katie, what do you think?
I absolutely agree. I think that we need to break down the abilities so that people understand that not everything is the same. So one of the first things I encourage, absolutely right, Richard, you have to listen to what your body is telling you. It is an antenna. It is going to download and receive information. And it's at that point, what you do with that information is up to you. But let's break it down a little bit. Not every psychic is a medium, but every medium is a psychic. So psychic basically means that you're able to tap into timelines. You're able to receive downloads, and you're able to receive information. That's the psychic side of things. Not some Many psychics can tap into timelines, past, present, future. They can read your fortune. They can, tap into energies. But the mediumship side of things means that you're tapping into people who have passed away. You're tapping into the past history of something, the residual energies, and you're able to communicate with the dead. Okay. Not everybody can do both, and there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean that they're better or they're worse. It just means that that's how they are meant to download the information. So I think the first thing that we have to kind of debunk and we have to define is whether you're a psychic or a medium or both. I happen to be both, so I'm able to tap into timelines and I'm able to see people who have passed away. It doesn't mean that you can't develop mediumship skills in terms of talking and communicating with the dead if you have psychic abilities. I feel that we all have psychic abilities to a certain degree. And it breaks it down to the basic form of, you thought of that person and they called. Or you thought of that person and they showed up at your house, or extrasensory perception. You have to realize that these are antennas, and how you download, receive, and comprehend the information is how you develop more abilities throughout your psychic venture.
Right, exactly. Great information. You're right, and I will tell you that. Guys, these questions there, just bring them in. Like I said, I love what we're getting so far. Here's another one from Jen. She said, I know I can see and hear spirits, more so now that I've been involved in the paranormal. How can I work on enhancing that? Let me give you my 2 cents. Expose yourself more to the paranormal. The more exposure you have to the paranormal, the more you will get enhanced. The more you will have the ability to see, feel, and hear. The more you will have the ability to filter the energy better, because you're being exposed to it over and over and over again. And eventually, although you have to be careful, I'm real big, as well as Katie is saying, you gotta be careful. But exposure to the paranormal more and more so, working with someone also that has abilities actually will help you enhance yours. You'll be able to work together in sync. That's pretty cool. I've only had that with 2 or 3 people, one being on the other side of the screen. We've worked together on a couple of things together, even personal stuff, and it's great to have that ability to connect with a person that way. So I would recommend you seek out some like-minded individuals, okay, and kind of see how you're able to share energies and kind of see how that can help you. Because, if you're a person who's newer in your abilities, okay, and you're working with somebody who's been a psychic medium for 40 years, that person is going to be able to help you enhance what you have now. Present to you how to read better. It'll help you along the way. Even just constant exposure helps too. But finding somebody to work with would probably be the best. What do you think, Katie?
Agreed. You want to find somebody who's knowledgeable, experienced, who understands, the information that's being given, and knows how to kind of guide you in the proper direction. I want to break abilities down a little bit, and I want to talk about television versus reality. And I'm not talking about reality television. I'm talking about reality versus television. Both, all of you guys know, Richard and I have both been part of television shows, multiple television shows. We've been there, done that in terms of being on the other side of the camera. So we understand the production side of things, okay? I don't mean in a reality TV series sense like Richard and I have done, where we've retold our stories or we've been able to kind of talk about the paranormal. I'm referring to scripted movies or scripted horror films, those types of things that sometimes people take in and assume that's really how it works. It's not necessarily the case. The first thing that you have to understand when you're trying to develop your abilities is not everybody is the same. There is not one way to read. There's not one television show to watch. There's not one book to purchase to learn from. You kind of have to go and do it on your own, in the sense that you got to find your own feet. You got to get your own feet wet, and you have to kind of trial and error and experiment with how you're receiving this information. So really, really think about what you're watching on television and try not to be influenced so much by that. It's good to have the knowledge. It's good to learn, the certain aspects of it, but you have to make it your own. The second thing that you need to do is that's really important is that when you're trying to develop these abilities, as Richard had talked about, getting into the paranormal and wanting to have it in your mind, you're going to start to have more instances. And basically what he's referring to is your present consciousness. You want it always in your mind. And that doesn't mean you're obsessing about it or you're thinking about it. But essentially what you're doing is that you're putting it in that present consciousness and it's there, it's in the forefront. So oftentimes when I'm trying to help people, develop abilities, I'll ask them what kind of vehicle they own. What color is it? What's the make? What's the model? And how many of those vehicles did you notice before you purchased it? Did you notice the same vehicles around? You probably didn't. But after the fact you purchased that car, that truck, that vehicle, you kind of went, whoa, there's one there, and there's one there, and there's one there. That's the point I'm making, that it's in your present consciousness. You're not obsessing about it, but it's there. The next thing that you got to really focus on is whether you're overthinking. And this, we're going to break this down a little bit. We're going to get to some questions, but overthinking is one of the worst things that you can do.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Good points, really are. And I'm glad you brought up the part about overthinking. The mind is, let me just give you a short of it before we go into it further. The mind is either your best friend or your worst enemy. The mind is the most powerful tool you'll ever have in your entire life. Now, this point that Melissa just brought up, have you ever heard of someone thinking you need to be delivered? I was told that when I have seen my father and grandmother, that it is evil. It is an entity trying to get to you. I've seen several relatives that have passed. Oh, okay. So, Melissa, I'm going to go ahead and give you the former minister's version of this who became a paranormal investigator, okay? People who come across with things like you have to be delivered, you have to be this, and anything that appears after death is a demon. Well, that would make Christ a demon now, wouldn't it? So that's not true. Okay, that would make Lazarus a zombie. That's not true. So what we have to do is look at the fact that they're listening to somebody tell them that in a pulpit. Okay, there is nothing or anything in the Bible that says you have to be delivered to engage the spirits. Nope. Matter of fact, the Bible is very clear in saying that we have power over the spirits. Okay, Christ was very clear in even saying there are such things as ghosts. Okay, so when you want to turn around to this person and say to them, very simply, this quote from the Bible, when he was walking across the water, they were afraid. And he said, do not be afraid, for I am not a ghost. A ghost is not as flesh and bone as I am. Christ's own words. So what I have found that I have done in the past when I've had people, and actually I wore a shirt today that unfortunately got dirty, changing a tire, is I had a team years ago, and I had two passages of scripture, that chapter and verse written below the cross for the actual symbol for the team. The one meant simply that we don't die and go to heaven and hell immediately. That passage of the Bible actually is chapter and verse written on the back of my shirt. The other one also says quite clearly the quote I just gave you about Christ saying that he was not a ghost. That also piece of scripture is written on the bottom of my shirt. I have had to use that to shut people down that think they know the Bible better than you, because all they do is listen to somebody in the pulpit tell them man's interpretation of the Bible. Now, I'm not trying to get preachy, okay? I really am not. Katie knows that I was a minister for a number of years, but when this kind of stuff comes up, okay, this is where people get shunned by the public, because the public is absolutely ignorant to the paranormal and how this works. Okay, they told me, I've had people tell me that psychic mediums aren't scriptural. Yeah, it is. It's in scripture. 1 Samuel, a guy by the name of Saul hired a medium to raise the spirit of King Samuel so he can have a conference with him. What? It's in the Bible? Oh my God. Yeah, it's in the Bible. So don't let people do that to you, okay? You don't have to be delivered. The Bible talks about prophecy. The Bible talks about mediums. The Bible talks about interaction and engagement with the spirits. Talks about all of that, but you need to be careful with it. Other than that, it talks about it completely. So don't let somebody do that to you. Just look at them, smile, and walk away. They'll never understand what's wrong with you. They might think you're crazy. Either way, it's a lot of fun.
And the thing is on a psychic mediumship level, you got to go with your guts. Does your gut tell you it's evil, or is that your head thinking? One of the biggest things that I find that people have hindrances and bad experiences, and that they overthink. And I talked about it a little bit earlier, where you're overthinking whether it happened, it's happening, is it right, is it wrong, is it up, is it down? Stop analyzing it. When you receive the information, if you need to read it, download it, write it down, leave it, that's okay too. Your body's going to tell you whether it's good or bad. I've never been on an investigation with a person or another psychic that hasn't received bad information and kind of went, ooh, that didn't feel good, right? Your body is going to be your compass, and your body is going to be telling you whether it's right or wrong. Sometimes we will jump to conclusions and we'll be startled, and then we'll wonder, was it a bad experience? But really, you've got to break it down, whether it's a spiritual happenstance or if it's a physical one. And once you get to know the differences, you're not going to question that.
No, and you're right. You're 100% right. It's you gotta inform yourself, educate yourself to a point where you don't have to worry about questioning yourself.
Right.
There's something to look at there. Now, Nadine brings up, do you both think it's possible that someone continuously involving themselves in the paranormal ghosting can begin to give them abilities that they did not have before?
Yeah.
No.
I
don't agree with that. Do you believe that? I believe you had to have had some semblance of the ability to be enhanced by the experience of the paranormal, because there's a lot of latent abilities.
Yes.
People have no idea about, but the paranormal will click it in for you real quick.
That I agree with. That's what I agree with. I think that it's going to bring it into your present consciousness. It's going to make you more mindful of it, and that's kind of where I was going. That yes, it will make it better, but it's not. It doesn't just turn it on. It doesn't give you the ability.
No.
It's the fact that it brings up the ability.
That's right. Yeah, that's my belief. I mean, you can disagree with me, Katie, all you want. I think it'd probably be the first time we ever disagreed. But
well, it's not that I don't think that it's not that I disagree with you. I agree in the sense that it brings it forward. I don't think it gives you ability.
No.
I don't feel like it just magically goes, here you go. I feel like it kind of brings it to the forefront, and that was my point. It does make it stronger from what you already have.
No, absolutely. Just to be nosy, Katie, what or where was the first place you checked out back home? Dean wants to know.
The first place that I had a paranormal experience back home?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay,
I don't know.
so, well, I grew up on a very haunted farm. So my very first paranormal experiences on that farm occurred, and they still occur today. But Dean, so for those of you that don't know, Dean and I went to high school together, and the high school was very, very, very haunted. So not sure if you ever had an experience there, but that was a pretty stellar place to be for a psychic medium, was the high school.
All right, so let's see. I'm going through all this. Tara brings up, so I think there is something going on, but the more I try, the less connected I feel. I seem to just be an occasional receiver, maybe just an empath. Also to you, maybe having life's blockages, also slipping in a way. I know a lot of the time when I go to an event or I go to an investigation, I have to take a moment of clarity. I have to take a moment to step back, chill out, register myself. For me, I have a set list of music I like to listen to before I walk into an investigation. Gets my mind in a different space. Doesn't allow me to be blocked very much. But you can block a lot of the things you get. Sometimes when there's so much going on in your day, your mind's not going to allow so much more. It's not. And a lot of this access has a lot to do with how your mind operates around it. So again, you have to really just kind of, when you have the chance to breathe, you'll find that you become a lot more open to it, and the metaphysical side of your consciousness will open up to it as well. But you've got to, life's interruptions happen, and that does slow us all down. And, that kind of stuff is just what you got to look for. What do you think, Katie?
Yeah, agreed. I think you have to break down the environment. You have to break down, how you're feeling emotionally when you're walking into the location. You have to break all of that stuff down and separate that versus, what's really being downloaded or happening in your mind. Let's break down different types of abilities. Let's break down whether it's, whether it's an empathic ability, clairaudient, clairsentient, clairvoyant, all of these things. So there are different types of abilities that you can have that not everybody has the same abilities. Okay. So Richard often talks about being clairaudient. So Richard, what is clairaudience to you?
Clairaudience to me, simply put, is I have the ability to hear spirits or entities speak without the need of a recorder. they actually have the ability to talk, I say, basically to me. But there are times that I get a message that isn't recorded on an EVP.
Yes.
It just isn't. It's there. I heard it, but it wasn't. That's why it's funny, because when I do investigations with my team, I'll hear something. Did anybody just hear something? Say, get the hell out. Because sometimes they might not hear it. It might not come across that way to them. It was just something for me to hear. So that's, that basically is what clairaudience is to me. I've had that happen to me several times where the message was just to me. And that's a little scary, but that's the way it happens. But typically I can hear an EVP. I can call out an EVP without having earbuds in my ear in the recorder. That's clairaudience. And I love it because I'm an audio guy, but I love it to tears.
Yeah. So everybody, I get this question asked a lot, and I'm sure you do too. I'm trying to develop my abilities. I don't know what I have. I get these feelings. I get these. Sometimes I get images and all that stuff. And basically, what Richard and I are talking about are different types of antennas that are used to download the information. So clairaudience is being one of them. That's the active hearing. Clairconscience. Okay, so claircognizance. Basically, that is the act of just knowing. You don't know how you know, you just know it. You have a gut feeling, you just know it's occurring. Okay, you know this is about to happen. You know that there's a man standing there. It's not as if you heard it or you've seen it, but you felt it. It's there. Then there's clairsentient, okay, which means it's the act of smelling. So you get psychic smells, okay? So when you're communicating with spirit or you're walking into a haunted location, you pick up something psychic. It could be a perfume, cigarette smoke, a scent that somebody used to, a personal scent or a perfume that they enjoyed, or a type of food they liked to eat when they were living, those types of things. And we download and pick those things up. And then there's clairconscient, which is basically, the fact that you can, I'm losing it. The fact that you can receive downloads and pictures. Okay, so there's many different antennas that you can have, and not everybody has the same antennas, but as you work, you may get closer and closer, and they may develop more so. There's also empathic. A lot of people, I think most people are empathic. I think that an empathic ability means that you pick up on others' emotions or feelings of others. So you're basically walk into a hospital and you may get an upset stomach, or you get emotional if somebody's having a bad day, and you wear it as if it's your own. So there's a lot of different abilities that we kind of don't give ourselves credit for, or don't even realize we have, and we use them every day, almost like an instinct.
Yeah, I agree with that. I want to clear it real quick. Chris Madrid made a comment about saying, before reaching out to more paranormal, shouldn't we know how to protect ourselves first? Honestly, we've talked about that. I couldn't begin to tell you how many times in a show. I also said it earlier. Yes, more exposure to paranormal would absolutely help you enhance your abilities. But I also said you got to be careful. You got to protect yourselves. Those are the things we tell people every single time. Yes, you need more exposure to paranormal. They'll work with, enhance, operate through your abilities. Yes, it will kick it up for you. Yes, it will. But again, we've said it time and time again, you have to be careful. I'm probably saying it more than I probably need to. But again, with our viewership, we consider you guys our friends. So that's what I would tell a friend. Hey, go out there and get in on some tours. I'm not saying going out there to go to certain places I know that love to be able to have spirits like to host on you, like, places that have spirits that love to jump on you. There's a lot of those out there that people go and book every single day, and they wonder why they got attachments. Be careful. I mean, if you're in the South and you want a recommendation about where to go investigate safely, as safe as I can tell you, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to tell you. But I think the exposure to paranormal doesn't mean you have to go into some place that basically is hell to be able to go into the paranormal and enjoy it. There's a lot of very benign locations out there that you can go to that just have spirit energy out there that just want to engage you. And that's really all it is. I would definitely love to recommend something to somebody in the Southeast United States, at least. So just kind of cover that point. We appreciate it. Now, Denise is talking about taking photos and angles on photos. In the photo, my husband was staring at the sky. When I tried to get his attention, he was still in the snapped photo of him When I see the photo, I see the angle clears. I can also see a face as I zoomed in. That is something too, just to kind of, and I'm not trying to, how do I say this without sounding mean? We all have to have an education in certain things when we do photography, especially in the paranormal. There are things called pareidolia. There are things called double exposure. There are things called moisture vapors. There are things along those lines you need to make sure you debunk with before you actually go, woo, we got something crazy to take a look at. Because there's nothing worse than, I'm telling you, throwing up a piece of evidence on Facebook and having something blow you out of the water about that piece of evidence. Go through it, debunk it yourself with several different methodologies. Look at it from other angles too, not just one or two. Have somebody else's opinion of it. I've got more evidence sent to me for my opinion I couldn't even begin to tell you. I'm sure Katie has too. We don't mind, but just be prepared for the honesty. That's all I'm saying, because sometimes it might be great. I've said many times to people, great catch, and then there are times I said, hey, my belief it's this, and it's not paranormal. But, there are. And then Amanda says, there are so many cranks out there that I don't suffer fools, but so many fall for it. You're right, they do. This is just one of those things that she said, from a young age, I can only describe as panic attacks that they've happened through the day or terrified me. I knew that I'd been there. Then that nighttime ones, if be drifting over, would wake, I would try to move, but I couldn't make a sound. If I wait for it to pass, would never open my eyes. They've only stopped 18 months ago. Woof. That's a lot to deal with when you're trying to sleep. What do you have to say about that, Katie? Why don't you give her your thoughts for a minute about that kind of stuff?
Sometimes what happens, no matter what you get psychically, there's physical ramifications. Okay, so even though we're spiritual beings having spiritual beings having a human existence, our bodies on the physical plane are going to experience physical symptoms. So sometimes when we have a buildup of psychic ability, psychic impressions, psychic instances, our bodies don't know how to get rid of that stuff. They don't know how to defrag. And quite often we, as a psychic, we suffer from adrenal fatigue, anxiety disorders, depression. There's a lot of things that kind of run through because our bodies don't know how to expel that excess energy that we're bringing in. And I find that sometimes if you're starting to go through the ascension process, which means your vibrational frequency is heightening, you're starting to download and receive more information, you're becoming more psychic, your body doesn't know what to do with it. And sometimes that's where the anxiety attacks happen. In some certain circumstances, that could be an attachment, a parasitic attachment that's kind of preying on you. I think in your case, this comes down to, your body doesn't know what's happening. You're heightening the vibration on a psychic level, but your body doesn't know what to do. And quite frankly, I break it down like driving a standard car. I don't know if everybody knows how to drive standard, but if you don't, think of a bicycle that's got different gears. As a psychic on a spiritual level, your vibration's heightening and it's getting into that next gear, but your body, being the vehicle, doesn't know what you're shifting into, and it doesn't know if you need to gear up or gear down or put the clutch in or shift. It's not an automatic vessel. And so because that's occurring, our body could be having a lot of those things. I get people asking me all the time, I'm seeing colors, I'm seeing flashes of colors. I'm getting a buzzing sound. I'm getting ringing in my ears. I'm getting, tingling sensations around my face or spider web feelings. I'm getting lightheadedness or dizziness, insomnia, those anxiety or panic attacks at night. A lot of these things are you going through the ascension process, and you basically have to embrace it. I went through the same thing when I started doing my my process of trying to get better as a psychic, and all of those things I went through. It's almost like flu symptoms for psychics. That I feel is something perhaps that you're going through.
Yeah. Now I want to just stop everything for just a minute. Let me try to put a little sunshine on this dark spot. Paul Spera says, congrats. Do you have any actual evidence to prove your statements? Paul, let me explain a little something to you about this show. This show does not take people who try to bully or pick on others or push their agenda. So You are now blocked. And we move on. We offer a very safe environment here to have conversations. And guys, no one on this show as a viewer nor the host have to qualify ourselves with anyone. So forgive me while I step away and take out the trash. Yeah, I just said that. That's right. I just said it. We don't like anybody getting picked on. We don't like anybody having to be talked to about like that at all. I say what I said. Fight me on it. Now, Don says, I've been called names by my family. Yeah, families are fun. Yeah, families are great. Families are really, really hush hush. They call me basically everything but crazy. My family did. And so one day when my sister, God love her, she came to me after she had seen me on television the first time around, and we were talking on the phone. She says, you know, I've seen that little boy apparition cross between the two bedrooms upstairs. Oh, have you now? So it's really funny how they come around eventually. You know what? They call you names, just walk away from a smile. Or you could be a smart ass like me and just look at them and go, oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was sister. Anyway. But yeah, don't let them get too on. They're not worth it.
Yeah, in my experience, now I've been very, very fortunate with my family, but in my experience with other friends that have had to deal with situations like this, most of the time that's fear-based. Most of the time they try to call it down because of fear. Don't let that get to you. I know it's very hard. You have an open family here. If you're not welcome to talk about it with your family, please know that this is your family. If you have questions,
that's right,
you can reach out to Richard and I. We welcome you with open arms. The whole point of this is to be able to kind of educate and tell about our life experiences. But it's fear that usually does that. It's fear that kind of forms an opinion and creates ignorance. And so, that's not what we want. And that's a hindrance. When somebody has been told their whole life that it's not happening, I don't believe you, or it's fictitious, or it's in your imagination, what does that do? That kind of brings you down, and it makes you feel you're second guessing yourself. And that's the biggest problem with psychic and mediumship abilities, is when you second guess yourself, this is when
and I do it all the time.
Yes, he does all the time.
Yeah, I do it all the time.
Everybody does, but you begin to do it less and less when you have the validation that you need. And unfortunately, Paul, never got to hear our validations. But I read enough people to kind of understand that it's them that gives me the validation. The only reason I know that I'm qualified or doing what I'm doing in a proper level is because the people I read that I don't know are able to validate what I've told them. So, it goes to show that sometimes you may not know the answer today or tomorrow, or you may not understand the information that you're getting today or tomorrow, but in time you will. And so patience is the key. For all of these psychic abilities, patience is the key. You're going to know when you're supposed to know, not a minute before.
That's right. Carmen said, what did he say? Oh, she's talking about Paul. She don't let the boy, I just kind of blasted out of the room. Yeah, that's what he said. And then I said what I said, which I said, kiss it, goodbye. And we move on. Like I said, this is a safe environment. That's where it should be.
Let's talk about the biggest or the most mainstream ability that we hear on television today. We hear in the media, we hear on social media, we hear it everywhere, is clairvoyance. Richard, what is clairvoyance? Because I think that is a blanket term for psychics.
Yeah, it's blanket. It's a blanket term for people who can see ahead or see. Clairvoyance has been written in description by saying that you can see entities, you can see what's going on. And to me, there is another descriptor called a seer. To me, a seer is a person who can actually witness the entity. Doesn't mean they understand a whole lot about it. They just happen to see it. And my daughter is one of them. She has that ability to be able to see, but she cannot communicate with it, nor is it able to communicate with her through clairaudience. But clairvoyance, she is able to see spirit, but not anything more. So I think clairvoyance has got like you said, it's got a pretty large blanketed descriptor to it that I think I think deserves to be better broken down. So why don't you go ahead and do that, Katie?
Okay. Hey, so clairvoyance, first and foremost, when you're downloading information, okay, we have, and I'm sure you have all heard of the third eye. And the third eye is basically referring to here, where the pineal gland goes, right at the third eye, okay? When downloading information or receiving information, lots of times psychic mediums, such as myself, will get things in my mind's eye, in my third eye. In other words, I receive a download that kind of, it's almost like a picture that comes into my mind, okay? Very different from physically seeing an apparition. Doesn't mean you're not seeing it, doesn't mean it's not happening, but there's two different forms. And I could count on, well, two hands now in all the years that I've been doing this, the amount of physical, full-bodied apparitions I've seen versus what has been presented to me in my mind's eye as a download. Not everybody is clairvoyant, and that's okay. Everybody has their own method of being able to read or download the information. In terms of antennas, I feel like once you develop one, you're able to develop the other ones. And clairvoyance seems to be one of the biggest, one of the, and I don't want to call it easiest, but I'd say the most, what would you call it? Widely used, I guess, ability. A lot of people have the ability of clairvoyance, that they have this premonition, whether it be through a dream or a daydream or, you know, a quick vision that, you know, as they're driving down the street, they have this vision of something happening. And so it's kind of it's a big thing. But you don't have to be. Some people are just clairaudient. They just hear, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people are can just pick up psychic smells. I have one girl on my team that that's how she started. Now she's able to see other things, but she started with psychic smells. She is the psychic smell ninja. She picks it up before anybody else does. And that's a good thing, right? So once you work on that, you're able to develop more of your abilities.
Yeah. That Amanda said, Amanda J. Norton said, I think you investigate without full knowledge will bring negative home, and they latch onto you. Let me just kind of give you my 2 cents on that. Behavior breeds behavior. Behavior begets behavior. It'll screw you one way or the other. Behavior will absolutely screw you one way or the other. Negative is targets people on two different occasions. Number one, when you invite it. When you invite negative energy, either by things that are going on with you, things that are, you know, if you're working a low vibrational energy right now, you're more susceptible to negative behavior. You're more susceptible to negative energy, okay? Also, too, and I'm not saying you do this at all, I'm just saying this is one of the triggers for negative energy and or attachment is provocation. If you provoke, I guarantee you, your answers you'll get will be shocking. The results you get, a lot will be more negatively shocking. So really, a lot of it has to do, again, with invite. You protect yourself, you shouldn't have that big a deal. But it depends on the invite. If you invite somebody, oh, come touch me. No.
It's a big no.
Well, big no. Big no. And yeah, I mean, it could be something as simple as, you know, there was an investigation we did last week where there was a doll, a handmade doll on a bed. Okay. That just didn't. It just didn't feel good.
Katie does not do dolls.
I do not do dolls. And it was just there, and I can feel the negative energy on that bad boy. And it just didn't need to be touched. Let's just put it that way. It just didn't need to be touched. Yeah, so I'm being coached by my other half by telling her, tell her what it said. Or me tell you what it said. My wonderful lady said, can I pick up the doll? And we were doing an EVP session. Can I pick up the doll? Asking, I guess, the entities in the house, can I pick up the doll? And my head snapped around like, what? No. And it told her in an EVP, go ahead. And then when I was sitting there going, no, it turned around and told me to rot in hell. I got EVPs for that, clear as day. Because again, it's one, he didn't want me to stop her from picking up the doll. And when I stopped her from doing it, it was pissed off. See, so something as innocent as a doll, right? A doll can carry negative energy with it that would love to maybe go home with someone. Yep. So you got to be careful about that too. Protect yourself. Have somebody either can read what's going on around you, read what's going on with you, That's why I always say, hey, if you can hook up with a good psychic medium in your team,
Thank you, Eileen.
bring them in. Bring
Yeah.
them in, because I'm here to tell you they'll help protect you as well. But yeah, that's just bad news. That's bad juju stuff right there. So you're not going to be able to hide from the negative. Okay. I wound up getting attachment to myself last week, getting it cleansed off me that I got 2 weeks plus ago. It happens. It happens. But you just have to really be careful. There's no way to avoid it completely.
No.
Just be careful. Just protect yourselves.
Yeah. No matter what you do in life, there's calculated risk.
You're
Okay?
welcome.
No matter what you do in life. I am a horse person, and I tell people,
Hey, Pamela.
if you want to fall off, don't ever get on a horse. If you don't want to fall off a bike, if you don't want to, I don't want to jinx anybody, car accident or roll over on your ankle, or, fall down the stairs. There's a million scenarios. Then don't do it. Then don't go near those places. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I'm not trying to paint the worst case scenario when you go to investigation, but I always refer back to moving into your latest, home. Okay, wherever that may be, an apartment, a house, condo, wherever you live. Now, when you first moved in, you cleaned it out, right? You swept, you mopped, you dusted, you disinfected, you did what you had to do to make it yours. Does that mean that you never wipe those floors again? Does that mean you never throw the vacuum over or sanitize or cleanse that area? You have to, because it doesn't matter how many times you're in and out, that metaphorical mud, okay, or physical mud is going to bring itself back in there. And it's only a matter of time where the cleansing process has to take place. The same thing refers to any psychic or paranormal investigation. When you're going into those scenarios and you're involving yourself into that, there has to be a cleansing that takes place. Does that mean that every investigation you go to, every psychic reading you have, or every ghost you get in contact with is going to give you something? Not necessarily. But there are those instances where you open yourself up to the other side. In other words, you've opened your door and the dirt is coming in. And so, again, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And it's important to take the proper steps necessary that you're normal. Okay. Going into a doctor's office, they get you to do blood work. They get you to do baseline readings to make sure they know what your good is. The same thing goes for any paranormal investigations. You go in and you do a baseline reading, you find out what's happening on a regular basis, and it's at that point where you start to collect and correlate your evidence as to what is happening. As a psychic medium, when I go into a haunted location, not only am I using my abilities, but we're also using the equipment and the investigation after to correlate that evidence, right? To justify what I am seeing, whether it be through history, going back and looking back into the location as to what happened. If I get a name, was that name correlated with the location? That's when the validation occurs, and that's when you know you're having these psychic premonitions. But if I second guessed myself, or if I was worried about getting something parasitic or negative into me every time I went into a location, I'm only hindering me. So we don't want to intimidate people from wanting to get more psychic abilities or to be able to do these things. We just want you to practice proper care when doing it. Anybody who owns a phone or a computer, a laptop, there's a potential possibility of you getting a virus on that laptop or phone. But you take proper steps for your VPN and your antivirus ware and malware and spyware. You take those steps to try to lower the risk for yourself. The same thing occurs with us when we're going into locations. And I encourage you, when you go into a location, take proper practices for safety. Don't be afraid to cleanse yourself after you leave. And the best thing is, have faith in yourself. Okay. If your body's telling you to get out, get out. If your body's telling you not to be afraid, don't be afraid. You're able to kind of use your body as that compass in order to get the information that you need while you're at that location.
Right. Now, Amanda has brought up one of our few, but at times most talked about subjects, Ouija boards. Now, she said Ouija boards are massive now. They were banned here in the 70s. I believe it should be only sold to experts. I own an original Mattel German name. It's wrapped in blankets, sealed, never used, never will be. People say, well, there's no chance there's not enough evil in the world. Okay, so I'm going to give you my take. We have talked about this several times on a show with Ouija boards. It is not the planchettes or the board. It's the conjuring. And it's the fact that you probably don't know how to close that portal, but yet it was sold to kids 9 or above, or 8 or 9 and above. when they had no idea what they were doing with it either. So, we kind of wonder where a lot of the portals came from in some of our homes. Hey, let's all assume and tell. Just saying. Yeah, but it's just one of those kind of things where it's not the board. It's just how it's used, how it's managed, and how it's closed. Okay, because I'm gonna tell you, point blank, not to scare the crap out of you, but you're going into a house doing an EVP session as it sounds. Whoops. You asking any questions of the spirits to answer, that's it sounds. Not a whole lot different than a talking board, Ouija board, just a different mode of communication. You're asking for a vibrational voiced response doing an EVP session. You're asking for it to move the planchette to answer you by letters or yes or no on a Ouija board. So if you don't know how to close that door, don't open it.
Yep.
And you better be real sure about how to close it. But again, you can't blame the instrument all the time.
No. And it's more a matter of who you're contacting. So I often refer to a phone. When you pick up the phone to phone somebody, you don't dial a random number and just goes, who's there? Who wants to speak to me? You have something in mind as to who you're contacting. The same thing occurs, to calculate that risk when you're trying to do a session. If you're trying to use a Ouija board and you have somebody in mind you want to contact, you're going to say that person's name and you're going to refer to that person specifically. That doesn't mean the portal's not open. That doesn't mean that there's the ability for something else to come in, right? When in the summer, when you open that door in the summer, how many flies flew in when you opened the door? The intention was the flies weren't supposed to come in, but the bottom line is they did. And so a lot of times paranormal instances happen that way. It's not a matter of the flies coming in, it's how you get the flies back out. Okay. Right. So before they breed and it becomes worse. Basically, if you're choosing to use a Ouija board, I never say don't use one, but just be knowledgeable about this stuff. Don't be afraid to do your research. Reference what you have researched. Try to find out these people that are trying to teach these things. Go to a few different sites. Don't just get it from one place, and experiment that way. I would not encourage you, if you are going to do these sessions, to do it in your own home at first. I wouldn't. I would encourage you to go somewhere else. If this is something that you choose to do, don't open up any doorways in your house, because once you open those up, it's really hard to get them closed.
Yeah. Yep. Nadine says, what should someone do who is ready to learn more and connect with the other side in a clearer way due to advance their abilities? Here's what I recommend. And Katie, you definitely chime in, please, when I'm done. Several things. You can, again, go on events or tours that are run by a professional group and get some exposure that way. Or you can link up with teams in the area and ask them if they would like for you to come out, if you could come out with them on an investigation or so. Okay. I would think the best direction would be to go on investigations with people who are more mature in the paranormal investigation game. That way you can be a little bit safer about where you go, who you're with. And there's always more security in numbers anyway with the spirits. The more exposure you have is usually going to happen when you're alone or in very small numbers, because they don't like that kind of stuff. They don't like big numbers at all. I've had many entities tell me in EVPs, and we had too many people on a tour. It's too many people. They don't want to engage too many people. It's kind of weird, but it happens. But that was what I'd tell you to do, is get with a group, get with a tour, go out and get some exposure to a place that take tours out, because they're not going to take people on tours. I would hope that they're not going to take people on tours where you're going to come out of there all scratched up, pushed down the stairs, jumped, or even worse, and infested with some kind of issue that you had to get rid of. So hopefully you get to a tour and enjoy yourself, learn a little more, get a little more exposure. Again, get with a team. Try to get a hold of a team in the area and say, hey, is there a shot that I could go with you? Anything I can do to get involved. Just get involved with bigger numbers. That would be a big help to do it safer. What do you think, Katie?
Absolutely. I think on a personal level, if you're wanting to heighten your vibration, there's things that you can do, meditation, grounding practices, really great ways to heighten your vibration, getting in touch with your spirit guides, getting in touch with your higher level of consciousness. All of that can be done on your own. It can be done through meditation. It's important if you're suffering, and I'm not saying you specifically, Nadine, I don't know, but if somebody's suffering from low vibrational problems, addiction, or depression or anxiety, this is another really great way of heightening that vibration to remove some of that. And when you heighten it, not only are you getting in touch with your higher level of consciousness, but you're leaving that lower vibrational alone, which means the addictions and so on kind of start to subside. So I would encourage you to do some meditations and cleansings, honestly. They don't have to cost any money. We all have YouTube, or we have methods of doing guided meditations through different platforms. Try that. There are some really great books out there that can help you to get into touch with it. I think that your first level, if you don't know what abilities you have, would be to define the abilities that you know of. So Richard and I have touched base on a few of them, but I would really don't be afraid to Google it. Get in and start reading about the different types of abilities and what characteristics they have and how they may relate to you. Once you're cognizant of these abilities, then you're going to be able to build to them. So not everybody knows what they are, and it's important to kind of define each one and see which resonates with you. Are you getting smells? Are you getting feelings? Are you getting emotions? Then you would use that. At that point, you would start to do your meditations and work towards those things. As Richard mentioned, getting out and getting with other people who are like-minded is really great. So if you're kind of on your own and you don't have any local teams present, social media is wonderful to get into like-minded groups. There's things all over the internet where you can tap into other people with abilities and work on clairvoyance, clairaudience, all of that stuff through the internet. So don't be afraid to do these things. My only word of caution is do your references, do your research, and make sure the people that you're dealing with are reputable, because you don't want them to put you down the wrong path, or you don't want you to get you in a situation that you can't get out of.
Yeah, really true. Really true. Earl said it's more how can I as an individual protect themselves is the trick. There are a lot of different ways to run some projection. A lot of them ones that people tend to work with is a white light bubble. That is something that requires, I would tell you to go ahead and Google it or YouTube it. Somebody could talk to you about it there. But it's a little bit of it's about a 7 or 8 minute process to talk you through it correctly. But basically, essentially, it's a white light. You closing your eyes and you're imagining a white light from the center of your chest coming out, enveloping you in a bubble of white light as a protection. That works. Okay. Also, something that I use quite often is called the dial down method. The dial down method is in closing your eyes and envisioning a 0 through 10 on a dial and being able to bring that 10 down to 0 without it popping back to 10. And when you can actually do that in your mind's eye, you're probably a little bit better blocked than you were before. So there's just several ways to be able to do that. Those are just 2, but there's a ton of ways you can try to. So I would definitely tell you to reach out and Google it. I'm not trying to avoid the question, just not enough time to talk about it. Let me see here. We've got a lot.
Irene says, I lived in a suicide condo and we had to move after 20 plus years.
Dude.
And it was hell on earth for all of us. I'm sorry to hear that. And then she continues, my abilities heightened and I couldn't stand it anymore. We moved to a clean house on a clean property. Well, I'm glad that you're able to recognize that, Irene. I think the biggest misconception about this paranormal thing is that it always can be solved. One of the biggest misconceptions is that you can get rid of these things. Sometimes the energy is too intense and it's not worth it. Sometimes you moving on is the only way that you're going to get salvation. And so, I applaud you in that, in the sense that you had to kind of get out, because not only does it affect you on an emotional and psychic basis, but physically it can affect you. It can make you sick. Hospitals, suicide condos, those places where there's been a lot of tragic events and trauma really can downplay the energy. And when you have thick mud, in terms of energy that have been there for so many years, it's like a stain. When you spill something on the floor for the very first time, usually a paper towel will cut it. But when you've had to deal with a stain that's been there for quite some time and it's really in there, the paper towel's not going to cut it. You need to get in there with some degreaser and some cleanser and some elbow grease and really spend the time to try to cleanse it. And even then, sometimes there's stains left. The same thing happens with energy. There are some locations that no matter how hard you try, the energy is too thick. And it's all about keeping it at a safe level rather than getting rid of it. Sometimes it's not worth it. Sometimes you just have to move on. There's certain cases that I've dealt with where basically we've told the clients, you're dealing with something elemental. I don't think you're ever going to get rid of it. Here's another person's card. Maybe they can help you. I've done all that I can do. And sometimes these people have to move on. It's not something that's easily rectified.
No, I agree. Now, Valerie says that she knows that she's at least fourth generation with abilities, but I wasn't raised by that side of the family. Do you think the same skills were passed down or that it's more random? We talked about a little bit earlier, Valerie, just to kind of let you know. You know, most of the abilities I've seen from people is genetically passed down. Mom had it, dad had it. Mostly it's mom. From my experience, it's mostly mothers who, you know, who have that trait, one trait or another, and it passes it down. So I do believe it's fully genetic to a point. I haven't seen anything proving me otherwise on that yet or not. Now, Amanda says, I don't get auras around people. I see like someone lighting a sparkler around them. It's bizarre. And thank you.
No,
No, that's not
bizarre. That's pretty
This is the paranormal. There isn't anything bizarre. Everything is normal in the paranormal for being paranormal. So no, there's nothing.
My dear,
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate it.
Yeah. My dear, if I asked you to explain the color purple, could you do it? You couldn't. If you didn't know the color purple, how could you explain it? Everybody has their own way of determining and metabolizing the information. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've witnessed it myself. It doesn't necessarily have to be colors. It doesn't have to be colors. It may be the way that you're downloading the information. Lots of times I talk about different types of radio frequency. And so psychic ability is very much like, or mediumship is very much like radio waves, in the sense that, you know, we have AM radio and FM radio, and one only sits with the other. So you can't pick up an AM station with an FM radio frequency, and so on. Vice versa, it goes on that way. The same thing happens maybe occurring with you. Your antenna may be only operating at one level. That doesn't mean it can't change. It just means at this time, that's what you're meant to be able to pick up. So don't look at it like it's bizarre. It's just the way that your body's downloading the information.
Now, Amanda brought up another situation. She said the latch on, I'm assuming she means the attachment, escalated. My daughter accused me of moving things I hadn't lived at hers. At that time, I got my own place and things escalated to hers. We got help. They told her to remove a strong link. It's a negative bloody thing, winded me. I fell down the staircase trying to flee my dog. Wouldn't go in her home. I knew it was there even before she moved. In that house made me feel like I wanted to run. There are a lot of things that we need to understand when dealing with the paranormal. Entities thrive off thermal energy. Thrive off of it. So here's the thing. If you get scared, that fear energy does two things that entities love. Number one, it raises your blood pressure, increases your heart rate. So what does that do? That makes you give out thermal heat. Guess what they love to live off of? I just said it, thermal heat. So they will try whatever they can, when they can, to get that thermal heat that they so live off of and have to have. So you really have to kind of understand how that goes. Now, as far as like somebody having attachments or anything like that, we've talked several times about cleansings, personally cleansing yourself, salt baths, saging, etc. That if you want to reach out, I can give you a recipe for a salt bath that might help her. And you, I would say you as well, yeah, be able to help you both out. We could do that. So just reach out to me after the show's over, and I'd be more than happy to give you the recipe for that. But I would think it might be necessary. Let's see here. Yeah, Richard loves dolls. Stephanie, no, Richard doesn't. Hi, Irene. How you doing? I'm just trying to find another question. Meaning we moved it.
Erin has one. Is it possible, as in my case, that I may not get as much interaction as others because my current attachment doesn't allow it? To a certain degree, Erin. To a certain degree, yes. So think of it like a rain cloud. So attachments, for those of you that don't know, attachments come in various forms. It doesn't necessarily mean there's an entity following you. Attachments can be energy forms. So it could be a rain cloud, I call it, following you from place to place. It can be an emotion that you're dealing with, the depression, the constant depression or anxiety. Sometimes that's not you. Sometimes that is an imprint that has been placed on you and you're feeling it through your empathic abilities. It doesn't necessarily mean that you suffer from depression or anxiety or whatever. Erin, I'm not necessarily talking about your case, but I'm saying that it's an imprint of energy or imprint of emotion. I think that a lot of times yourself or you as an individual, not necessarily you, Erin, but as a person can block that stuff too because of bad instances or bad things that we've had in the past. We all know about the walls that we put up emotionally. We put walls up every day when, when you've burned yourself on the stove, the last thing you want to do is walk back over and touch the stove again, right? You put a wall up and go, whoop, I don't want to do that again. That hurt. The same thing happens with energy. And so, if you've had a bad paranormal experience, you've had an attachment, it's in fact sometimes you putting the wall up and going, nope, don't want that to happen again. That's stopping your abilities. So in your case, Erin, it could be a little bit of both. But you're giving it power. If you're not able to have the abilities that you're having, and you in fact feel that it's the entity or the attachment causing this, you've given it that much more power. And so you're revoking it. You're revoking the power. You need to get it back and not allow that to happen. And once you dissipate that, you'll find that rain cloud's going to go away and you'll have your abilities again.
Yeah, good point. Chris Madrid says, do tragic events stimulate abilities? Energy stimulates abilities. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be a tragedy. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't be. It could be just about any type of energy that is out there will stimulate an ability. Tragic events just have a higher level of energy most of the time. So mm-hmm. That's kind of where that exposure comes from there. But again, even trapped energy, even residual energy, is going to trigger energy. It's just the way it goes. This whole thing that people have to understand about the metaphysical, even about life, everything is energy. Energy will spread one direction to another because of energy that surrounds it. So we're all surrounded by different energies. But yes, tragic energies, they all stimulate abilities, but in another way to say yes, they heighten abilities that raise up level of energy. In some way, I guess you could consider it stimulate. But that's only because of the level of energy involved. What do you think, Katie? Am I right there or am I wrong?
Agreed. Yep, agreed. It comes down to the expulsion of energy. Okay, so we've heard stories of people who've had near-death experiences and, they're able to have capabilities after. It's not necessarily the near-death experience that caused it. It's the shift in universal energy that caused it. This is why psychic children are the most psychic. This is why, because their energy waves and their energy forms of innocence are different, the non-judgmental side of things. Most children have abilities, okay? It's the 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, Thanksgiving, the human side of things that we deal with every single day, that we have the responsibilities that hinder our psychic abilities. Okay, I go back to we're spiritual beings having a human existence. So the human side of us, our brain is saying, don't touch that. You could get hurt. Don't go there. That's dangerous. That's scary. Don't do that. It's involved in keeping us alive. Okay. But their spiritual consciousness is what gives us our downloads. And when they're not working simultaneously and working together, this is when we run into problems. So at a childlike age, these children don't have judgment. They're innocent. Okay. They don't have the ability to say that's bad. They only see the man standing there. And that's when they receive the download. It's when they get older and they start getting judged, or the Monday to Friday, that ability starts to go away. And usually that's during puberty, because the social side of things, in terms of children getting older and making judgments in life, is shifting that energy force. So really, you have to look at not necessarily the fact that tragic or major events occurred to cause the abilities. It's the shift in that, almost like a jolt or a shock, that's causing the abilities to come back, essentially.
It does. You're right. Now, Nadine said, Richard or Katie, do you do personal readings? Katie does do personal readings. You just have to reach out to her. She is very heavily scheduled, though. I will say that. So, she's well worth the wait. and the patience, if you can do that, I would recommend it because she's an incredible psychic medium. I trust her with all of my
What are you
personal
talking
items.
about?
Huh?
Richard does it too. Richard does it too.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, no, Katie's an incredible psychic medium who does really well with readings with folks, and I'd recommend you reach out to her. But you've got to give her time to be able to fit you in the schedule. Her schedule is pretty slammed. So, but it's well worth the wait. Like I said, she's definitely well worth the wait. I get to call her anytime I want. Well, that's kind of my thing. Katie's info is on her Facebook page. You're right, it is.
Thank you, Chris.
I'm just trying to find one more or two more questions. All right. So Tara said, you mentioned meditating as a way to development. While meditating, do you concentrate on the paranormal? No. Meditations really do nothing other than to chill, open up, clear your mind,
Right.
get yourself to a point where there's nothing, no roadblocks getting in their way. That's really what meditation is for. And I do it when I'm investigating. I'll do it. I do something called sit down, shut up. And yeah, Katie smiles every time I say that. Sit down, shut up. Get into a situation where you can sit in a chair, you can close your eyes, press record in your digital recorder, plug in your earbuds, and just shut up. Give yourself a chance to get into space mentally. Give yourself a chance to get settled into where you're at. And you would not believe the amount of interaction that'll happen without you even having to ask a question. Trust me. So to me, it's kind of a twofold thing. To me, I get to investigate and I also get to meditate. So and sometimes I catch a quick nap. You don't know. That's the way it goes. Sometimes I catch a quick nap.
It's important that you have.
But good question, though.
When you're doing meditation, there's a few things that you need to kind of practice on. If somebody ever tells you that if the act of not thinking, the act of not thinking is thinking of not thinking. Okay, so number one, when you start meditating, it's important to do it in small doses. Do not overanalyze, do not overthink, do not over meditate. Okay, you want to do it in small doses, so 10, 15 minutes to start. Guided meditations are great because it puts you in a focal point and you can follow along as the guided meditation is going. But a lot of people will say to me, well, I can't meditate because my mind goes wild. I just can't focus. I can't just clear my mind. That's the whole point. That's the grounding practice as part of the meditation. You got to let all of that stuff leave your body. You got to let it go. And then you're going to start to get the downloads. Okay. So you got to dump the junk mail out and then you'll receive the download. So you will slowly work up. When I started meditating, I started with guided meditations, and now I find they're a hindrance. I don't want anybody talking. I try to get myself into a moment where it's either with music or in complete silence, and I try to get those downloads. Don't analyze the information. Don't judge the information. I don't care if you see a purple dinosaur and a red balloon. Don't judge the information. If you need to write it down at the end of your meditation, that's okay. Let it go. You're going to start to notice that these things start to make sense to you. You're going to start to realize that even though it didn't make sense at the time, it all correlates. Okay. You may start to have conversations with people you've never witnessed before. You're almost daydreaming in a sense where you're taken to a different place and you're able to have these conversations. Again, don't judge it. Write it down. Forget about it if you have to, and go back a little while later and have a read. You're going to find that a lot of this stuff makes sense. You know, if I had a nickel for every time I read somebody or I had a meditation and something didn't make sense and I presented it and people looked at me like I was crazy, and then they came back and said, I know what you're talking about. This isn't you being arrogant. It's the fact that I've realized that you have to give it time in order to make sense. It'll make sense when it's supposed to. So the same thing goes for you. If you're looking for an answer in something specific or in particular, you had mentioned, Tara, that, do you have to think about the paranormal? If you're looking for a paranormal answer during your meditation, then in fact, yes, you want to do that. I encourage that when you do meditate and you're trying to clear your mind, allow things to flow through. But if you're looking for a specific answer to something, put it out to the universe when you're starting your meditation. And that's what you're going to focus on. Okay. You have to have a theme when you're meditating, when you're looking to talk to that higher level of consciousness. And you'll find that once you get good at it, once you start to clear your mind faster and you can get into that zone, that you're going to be able to get those answers that you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Stephanie said, I had a guy in the UK offer me a free past life reading or whatever it's called. Should I do it? If it's just a past life reading, it doesn't have any real interaction with your current day. It's a past life reading. I wouldn't think there's any harm in it. Again, you know who to give information to and who not to give information to. If you have to keep on feeding the person that's trying to do the reading for you, they probably aren't doing reading. They're probably just guessing. So just, be careful. But I wouldn't see there's any harm in that at all, Stephanie, whatsoever. I don't see it as an issue. Now, wait a minute. Ellen, LOL, Richard does readings during waffles and omelets. Okay.
Told you.
Yeah. All right. So what Ellen is talking about, guys, so you don't know, Ellen is the server at Waffle House in Dayton, Tennessee. Great lady. Comes to a lot of our tours. She gets readings every time I go there for breakfast, just about, because it just happens that way. You can't go in some places without somebody trying to talk to you, and you got to get that message out. That's just the way it is. For me, it happens quite often at the Waffle House when I'm having, I don't do waffles anymore, Ellen, thanks. I do omelets, but I don't do waffles. Calm down. But yes, I do readings from time to time.
So guys, so kind of in closing, we had talked about So You Think You're a Medium. So in closing, we talked about different psychic abilities, and really quick, mediumship aspect is communicating with people who've passed away, communicating with energy that's passed away. If I could leave you with any advice about mediumship, is when you go into a location and you're looking to communicate with a loved one, do your safety precautions first. Make sure you surround yourself in white. Use things that you believe in, like holy water, crystals. There's all different things that you can use to kind of keep yourself protected. Make sure that when you're wishing to communicate, or you're having that seance with that individual, that you're naming that person. You wish to communicate with your mother, you name her. This is who I want to communicate with. Allow things to flow in when you're trying to, receive the information. If you need to write it down, write it down. If you need to go and grab something of that loved ones that you have to kind of get closer to that individual, don't be afraid to do that either. Okay. But again, when you're done, you want to close the session down. You want to say, okay, I'm done. Goodbye. I hereby close this session. Nothing's welcome to come through anymore, and go on your way. But don't be disappointed. If you don't get answers right away, that is okay. The biggest frustration I get from people is, I tried and tried and tried and it's nothing. Most of the time there's something coming through. You're just not aware of it. You're looking for the big holy grail moment of something being whipped across the room, or give me a sign. I want a sign that you're okay. And 2 hours later, there's a dime on your floor, but you neglect to take that into consideration. You have to understand that little signs and symbols are huge on the other side. They don't have voice boxes. They don't have a physical hand to move things. They have to manipulate the energy to either manifest the product, manifest that dime, or present something to you. So give it some time. Please be patient. You may not get an answer for a day. You may get an answer in 2 days. But it's something that you have to be patient with, and I'm telling you, you will get your answers. You'll find that dreams are one of the easiest ways that they're able to communicate. So you ask during your meditation, or you ask during your drive, and they present it in a dream. Another real great way that they're able to present themselves easily is through energy. So whether a natural element, earth, wind, air, fire, okay, they're able to present it through that. So I often tell people that when you do a session, use a candle. Okay, light the candle, let the candle burn down a little bit, let the wick get wet and all of that stuff, and start asking questions. And you'll find, because it's a natural element, they're able to manipulate the plane. That's another great way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
But just be patient, because I'm telling you, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
Nadine asked, do you recommend house cleansings or cleaning on a regular basis, almost schedule, like such as sage, frankincense, myrrh, holy wood, or holy water? I would say yes on the cleansing. I mean, there's no harm, right? No harm, no foul. I would use sage and Palo Santo wood to kind of do a perimeter cleansing. Don't just waft it in the middle of the room. You actually have a purpose when you do the perimeter of the house. You're kind of chasing the negative energy out of the house. And also, too, as long as you're doing with what I believe is a decent cadence, when you're doing a cleansing, the cadence should be repeated. The cadence should get stronger as you get closer to the end of the cleansing, just to kind of remain and retain control of the situation. And when I do a cleansing of a home, I did this home here, and because Lori was here before I had her do the third round of going around with the salt spray and the sage, because that allowed her to take some empowerment. And empowerment is really important in the world you're fighting against or battling against the metaphysical, because you having and retaining control of your place is not going to allow them to be able to do so. So they may even just eventually just move forward just because you're not giving them what they want. So that's just something to consider there. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely use sage and Palo Santo. Now, the holy water, I'm just going to be directly honest. Holy water works well with spirits or entities that are believing in God. You have a spirit or an entity that does not believe in God, elemental, demon, well, they believe in it, but they care less. Demonic, elementals, they're not believers in God. It's not going to have any impact on them. But again, the earth, the earth methodologies of fire, smoke, fire, water, hard mineral elements like salt. Those things really have a tremendous strength against the metaphysical. And again, the cadence involved. I use the cadence of spirits of ill will and ill intent cannot and will not cross this line. And I repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. And I get stronger and stronger and stronger with it. So where they eventually understand that I'm taking back my house, I'm taking back my space. And that's the bottom line. Because I said so. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. But that's just kind of something that helps too. You got to have a good cadence, and you can't just waft it in the middle of the room. You've got to actually paint the walls, as I call it, paint the walls. And that'll set you up a perimeter. So
Fantastic.
I'll get off my soapbox now.
Guys, don't be afraid. Please don't be afraid. Fear is what feeds this. We've been coached and we've been programmed to fear a lot of this stuff, and you don't need to fear it. Fear is what keeps us from seeing our loved ones after they pass. Fear is what keeps us from being able to give us the signs and symbols that we need. Don't be afraid. If you ever question, if you have a paranormal experience and you feel unsettled by it, you don't feel good about it, that's not going to be grandma. That's not going to be mom. That's not going to be dad. Unless they did that in life, they're not going to do it in death. So it's really important to listen to your body. But fear of seeing that person after they passed away is what's hindering them coming through. If you truly want to get a sign from them, then don't be afraid to ask them for them to do it in a way that you're comfortable with. To turn on the television or change the radio station or turn up the volume or do something that you're comfortable with. They're only going to work with you. They're not there to scare you, harm you, or to set you off. They just want to let you know that they're okay. So again, if you're starting to have paranormal experiences and you're getting bad vibes, you're getting scratched, you're feeling sick feeling, you're getting all of these different things, that's not going to be your family members unless they were evil in life. Okay, so that's one of the first steps you want to do to kind of remove that part of the situation, because you don't want to associate that with every paranormal experience you have. When you do that, you put the antenna out, and this is what the energy feeds off of. It knows that you're a marker, it knows that you're afraid, and it's going to create more fear in you.
Right, you're right. Really quick to Ellen, if you build a Tesla coil, you better bring it on a second for our last event. It's our last event for quite a while. It's 2 buildings, so better bring it.
Senior mediums, you get warnings for structures. And
I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that meant, but I thought I'd bring it up. See. Okay, so Annette says, is it possible that when I listen to a spirit box along with others that I hear my own message, but others don't hear the same thing? Yes. Are you talking about hearing your own adaptations of what's being said in messages? I've heard about that. Mm-hmm. I've heard about that. You also have to understand too, for example, as a clairaudient, I can hear an EVP, I can pull it right out of a recording in a heartbeat, but not everybody has that ability to do so. So if you are clairaudient, let's say, and you're listening back on an SB7 box or some type of spirit box, you're liable to be able to pick out things that people aren't. I have done verbal battles with people over what something has said, or even if something has been said. So as far as you hearing your own message from an entity, it's possible. I mean, I'm not going to ever say it's not possible. But yeah.
Yep. There's lots of case scenarios where
Thank you,
People,
Tara.
they're sitting in the same location
you,
and only
Lauren.
one person sees the apparition. Is it for that specific person, or is it the fact that they're able to tap into that timeline, tap into that vibrational frequency? There's a few things that happen. If an entity wants you to see it, it's going to do everything in its possibility to do it. Sometimes your vibration is just not picking up on it, so it has to do something else. It's got to flicker the lights. It's got to, it's going to take the path of least resistance. So it may not even be the fact that think of a dog, okay? A dog can hear things and smell things that we can't. We don't have the same abilities. Some people have better sniffers than others. Some people can smell easier than others. The same principle occurs with people's energy. If your antenna is a little bit higher or operating a little bit more efficiently than the person sitting beside you, you're going to pick up things that they're not. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's for you. There are case scenarios where that can happen, but it could be the fact that you've just heightened that vibration, and that's what's happening.
That's great. Guys, we're out of time.
Unbelievable.
That just blew through here like a maniac. We are out of time.
Right.
We are so thankful for all the interaction tonight, all the comments, all of the questions, guys. I hope we were able to get to the questions for you as best we could. But we appreciate you guys coming out and watching the show. Please feel free to share the show if you liked it. If you think anything that we have said to you tonight or anything that we answered as far as questions go could help someone else, please like and share the show. That's how we keep things going. Yeah. Oh no, not out of time. Yeah, Francine, we're out of time. Actually, we're beyond time right now. So guys, we want to thank you all very, very much for coming out. We thank you, seeing you every single week. It's incredible to see how much you guys have show up, and that's a lot. We thank you. And we will talk to you guys next time on Let's Talk About It. Do me a favor, be kind to yourselves and be kind to one another. It's really important. Guys, take care of yourselves. Good night.
Bye.